Chosen one, stop for a moment. Everything around you can wait, because heaven has interrupted this very instant to reach you. You are not here by accident. This message has been woven into time itself, reserved for your ears, your eyes, and your spirit. You are in danger, but you are not forsaken. There is still time for rescue. Still a light flickering in the distance. Still mercy waiting at the edge of the storm. You have felt it lately, haven't you? That strange heaviness, the sleepless nights, the restlessness that refuses to leave your heart. The world around you keeps moving, but something in your soul whispers that something deeper is shifting, something unseen. You've been trying to hold everything together, trying to smile, trying to keep faith. But a quiet fear has started to creep in. The fear that maybe you've lost your way. The fear that maybe God has gone silent. But hear me clearly now. Heaven has not forgotten you. The reason you can still feel the pull is because grace hasn't walked away. This message comes as a divine interruption to wake you up before danger completes its work. You are standing at the threshold of both rescue and ruin, and your next choice will determine which path unfolds. Listen carefully. This is not a coincidence. This is divine intervention. For too long, you have been fighting silent battles while pretending to be fine. You have been surrounded by smiling faces that could not see the weight you carry. You have endured betrayal, confusion, rejection, and seasons of isolation. But the truth is, these things were never meant to destroy you. They were meant to reveal you. You are not ordinary. You were never built for comfort. You were designed for conquest. Beloved, you cannot afford to ignore the call this time. You have delayed before, hesitated before, promised to pray and never did. You have told yourself later, but later has arrived. This is the hour to act fast. Your obedience now determines your breakthrough tomorrow. Heaven has sent a rescue plan, but you must accept it. The Spirit of the living God declares, I am calling you out of the shadow and into safety. You will not die in the place of confusion. You will not lose what I gave you. You will not fall beneath the weight meant to crown you. Listen closely. Chosen one, you have been marked. Every setback, every tear, every lonely night has been preparing you for a greater unveiling. What is chasing you is not punishment, it is purpose. What is shaking you is not destruction, it is awakening. You are not the victim of circumstance. You are the vessel of divine power, about to emerge from the fire, purified and unstoppable. There are those who laughed when you fell, who assumed you were finished. But God delights in the impossible. The same power that raised Jesus from the dead is reaching into your situation right now. He is realigning your steps, silencing the voices of confusion, and cutting the cords that once held you bound. It was proclaimed in the second letter to Timothy, chapter 1, verse 7, For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and sound mind. That means fear has no throne in your heart. Anxiety has no authority over your destiny. Every voice that told you you can't is about to bow to the truth that you can, because God says you will. This is not just inspiration, it's instruction. The warning is simple: you are in danger. But heaven has provided an escape. The path is narrow, but it leads straight into the arms of safety. Don't scroll past this moment. Don't silence that tug in your chest. You know the Spirit is speaking. You know this is for you. So rise, Shake the dust from your spirit. Let go of the fear that has been whispering your name. You are chosen for such a time as this. You are not meant to perish in the storm, but to command the winds to be still. The same God who called Moses from the wilderness, who raised Esther from obscurity, who transformed Saul into Paul, is calling your name right now. Your rescue begins when you respond. Let this moment be your declaration that you will not surrender to darkness. Not now. Not ever. God's hand is reaching. Take it. Step into your calling. Reclaim your peace. And walk as the one who was always meant to overcome. If this message resonates in your spirit, if you feel that divine stirring inside, then do one prophetic act of agreement. Like, share, subscribe, and comment the number 777 below as your public declaration that you choose life, light, and divine alignment. Let heaven see your yes. Chosen one, now that the divine interruption has reached your heart, you must understand what is truly happening around you. The danger is not always loud. It does not always arrive with thunder or flame. Sometimes it moves quietly, weaving itself into your daily life, hiding inside familiar places and familiar faces. The silent trap rarely announces its presence. It waits for fatigue, distraction, or compromise to open a door. You've felt this before, haven't you? That small compromise that seemed harmless. The moment you told yourself it was just this once. The conversation you kept, though you knew it, dimmed your spirit. The relationship that drained you, yet felt too comfortable to release. Those were not coincidences, they were snares. The enemy knows he cannot destroy what God has ordained, so he seeks instead to delay, to distract, to entangle. He studies your patterns, the way you cope, the things that comfort you, the moments you grow weary. He sets traps where you least expect them, a lingering bitterness, a quiet jealousy, a subtle pride. They seem small, but spiritual chains often begin as invisible threads, and each thread that remains unbroken tightens around your purpose, making it harder to breathe in truth, harder to move in obedience, harder to recognize your own calling. Listen, beloved, you have been targeted not because you are weak, but because you are chosen. The darkness has identified your potential. Your presence carries the kind of light that exposes hidden things. When you walk into a room, something shifts. When you speak, the spiritual atmosphere trembles. The enemy's plan has never been to kill your body, it has always been to silence your voice. That is why this warning has come to remind you that not every open door is divine, not every opportunity is a blessing, and not every smile is sent from heaven. The silent trap is subtle. It disguises itself as progress, comfort, even love. It promises peace while planting seeds of compromise. And if you are not spiritually awake, you will mistake the counterfeit for the true. But hear this. Child of God, discernment is returning to you. The fog that once clouded your judgment is lifting. God is exposing motives, unmasking false promises, and breaking attachments that were secretly draining your strength. The Spirit is whispering, watch closely. Do not settle where I am calling you to soar. The enemy may whisper, you're too tired to fight. It's easier to stay quiet. But the truth is, silence is his victory. Every time you choose to ignore the conviction in your heart, the trap tightens. But every time you choose obedience, no matter how small, the chains weaken. Freedom is not one grand act. It is 1,000 little choices to stay awake when the world wants you asleep. Do you remember the moments you felt sudden unease in certain places or around certain people? That was not paranoia, that was protection. The spirit inside you has been sounding alarms long before your mind could explain why. God does not always shout. Sometimes he warns through a whisper, through discomfort, through divine disconnection. You are not losing people, you are being preserved. You have prayed for clarity, and heaven is answering. The things that once tempted you will soon lose their power. The desire for counterfeit comfort is being replaced by holy hunger. God is cutting ties you didn't have the strength to cut yourself. What felt like rejection is actually redirection. What looked like loss is actually liberation. The word of the Lord echoes through time, reminding you of his constant watchfulness, as was spoken in the sacred texts of old. In the book of Proverbs, chapter 4, verse 23, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. This is not a gentle suggestion, it is a command. To guard your heart is to protect the source of your destiny. Every decision, every dream, every divine assignment flows from the condition of your heart. If your heart becomes entangled with bitterness, fear, or lust, your vision becomes clouded. But when your heart stays pure, the path becomes clear. So today, ask yourself, who or what has access to your heart? Are they helping you grow closer to your purpose? Or are they subtly leading you away from it? The trap does not always appear evil. It can wear the mask of normalcy, of routine, of friendship. But spiritual warfare often hides in the ordinary. You are not helpless. You are not blind. You carry the spirit of discernment. The same spirit that raised Christ from the dead dwells in you, guiding you into truth. The trap may be silent, but your God is not. He is speaking, revealing, protecting, and preparing you to walk untouched through the snares. Let the words of wisdom settle deep within your spirit. Guard your heart, and everything else will follow. Guard your time, your peace, your conversations. Refuse to entertain what dulls your anointing. You are not called to blend in. You are chosen to stand apart. The moment you choose purity over popularity, clarity over comfort, truth over imitation, the traps lose their hold. The silence of the enemy means nothing when heaven speaks your name. The trap can close, but it cannot contain the chosen. Even in the darkest moments, divine eyes are watching, divine hands are covering, divine strength is building inside you. The storm has been building quietly. Chosen one, you have felt its pressure in your chest, that rising tension between what you know and what you fear. It's not just emotion, it's spiritual collision. Heaven and darkness are contending for your next decision, and the voice that wins will determine your direction. You've asked, God, where are you in all this noise? And the answer comes not in thunder, but in a whisper that pierces the chaos I never left. The voice in the storm is not shouting from afar, it is speaking from within you. The world around you may shake, but the presence inside you remains unbroken. The whisper is gentle, yet it carries the full weight of eternity. Do not confuse silence with absence. Sometimes heaven speaks in stillness because the next instruction requires full attention. You have prayed for guidance, and now guidance arrives, wrapped not in comfort, but in conviction. You cannot hear clearly if your heart is divided. That's why the storm intensifies, not to destroy you, but to drive out every false sound. There are moments when God allows the wind to roar just to show that your foundation still stands. The waves rise, not because He abandoned you, but because He's revealing what cannot be shaken. Every attack, every confusion, every delay has been part of a larger purification. When the storm rages, it is proof that your calling has been located. Listen closely now. That quiet pull in your spirit, that's the voice. It is not condemning you, it's calling you back to safety. It is reminding you of who you were before the noise, before the wounds, before the doubts. The voice is saying, "You are still mine. You are still covered. You are still chosen." Heaven does not panic when storms rise. It positions you. God is not surprised by the chaos around you. He is using it to prepare your obedience. You are learning to hear Him in motion, to trust Him in transition. Every time you respond to that inner whisper instead of fear, you train your spirit to follow heaven's frequency. Do not let the storm convince you that your prayers are useless. In fact, the louder the storm, the closer your answer is. Some storms are not punishment, they are confirmation that the enemy is threatened by what's coming next. The more violent the shaking, the greater the breakthrough waiting on the other side. The ancient words recorded in Romans still echo today. In chapter 8, verse 28, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose." Even now, while the winds howl and uncertainty looms, God is weaving everything into purpose. The heartbreak, the loss, the confusion, none of it is wasted. Every scar becomes a testimony. Every delay, a setup for divine timing. You are not being punished, you are being positioned. Remember, these storms are temporary, but calling is eternal. The voice that called you before the storm will guide you through it. The danger is not in the storm itself, it's in forgetting who speaks above it. You must anchor yourself in truth, even when everything around you shakes. And when fear starts whispering, "You're alone," answer back with the words of faith. Speak life into the chaos. Say, "My God is still in control. My destiny is still intact. My future is still secured." Every declaration weakens the storm's grip. Do not underestimate your voice. When you align your words with heaven, creation responds. You are not a spectator, you are a participant in your own deliverance. The storm obeys authority, and authority lives in you. That's why darkness trembles when you choose to speak instead of surrender. So right now, I want you to make a small but powerful act of faith. Comment these 3 words below: "I choose faith." Say it out loud if you can. Write it publicly if you dare. Because every time you declare those words, you push back against the storm's lie that you are powerless. You are reminding your soul that faith is not a feeling, it's a decision, and heaven honors decisions made in the middle of chaos. Let that declaration be your anchor. When the waves rise again, remember what you said today. Remember that you did not run, you stood. You did not hide, you listened. You did not break, you believed. The storm may be loud, but your faith speaks louder. The same God who calmed the sea with a single word is speaking into your situation right now. And when He says, "Peace, be still," nothing in creation can resist His authority. So breathe. Chosen one, lift your head. You are not perishing, you are passing through. The voice in the storm has not come to frighten you. It has come to remind you that you were never lost, never forgotten, and never forsaken. You are safe in the hands that command the wind. The darkness has learned to disguise itself. Chosen one, it no longer hides behind obvious evil. It wears masks that look like light. It smiles with good intentions, speaks with soft tones, and offers comfort that seems harmless. But beneath that surface, it is poison coated in honey. This is the moment when heaven opens your eyes to see what was once hidden. The exposed shadows are not outside you, only they sometimes lurk in your habits, your emotions, your choices, and the people you trusted. You have been asking God for revelation, and now He answers. He shows you the roots beneath the symptoms, the reason you feel drained after certain conversations, the heaviness that enters after specific thoughts. The confusion that rises when you try to pray. All of it is evidence that shadows have been operating undetected. God is now shining His light not to shame you, but to free you. Exposure is never cruelty, it is mercy. When light comes, it does not argue with darkness. It simply reveals. That's what is happening in your spirit right now, illumination. It may sting to see what's real. You may discover that some things you loved were secretly stealing your peace. You may realize that certain relationships were never divine connections, but distractions designed to delay your growth. Yet even in that pain, there is purpose. You cannot heal what you refuse to see. This process of exposure is holy surgery. It removes what is false so that what is real can breathe. The Spirit will not only show you the deception around you, but also the compromise within you. He will highlight the patterns you once ignored, the moments you sought comfort over conviction, the times you silenced your conscience to avoid confrontation. But instead of condemning you, He offers grace. He says, "Now that you see, walk differently." Understand this, the enemy thrives in hiddenness. His greatest weapon is secrecy. The moment something is brought into the light, its power breaks. That's why confession is powerful. Why truth liberates. Why honesty heals. When you bring the shadow to God, it loses its grip. You may fear being exposed, but heaven's exposure is never to embarrass, it is to empower. As the prophet wrote in the scroll of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 3, "For the revelation awaits an appointed time. It speaks of the end and will not prove false. Though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay." This means the unveiling happening in your life is not random, it was scheduled. God waited for this exact moment because you are finally ready to see. The revelation of truth is timed with your readiness to walk in it. The things that once confused you will start making sense, because divine timing brings divine understanding. Do not fear what God reveals. The same light that exposes also heals. It burns away deceit, but it also warms the places that grew cold. It will convict you, but it will also comfort you. That's how you know it's God. The enemy accuses, the Spirit reveals and redeems. So let Him shine on every part of you. Let Him walk through the corridors of your memory, the chambers of your heart, and the corners of your soul. There is nothing He exposes that He cannot restore. There is no shadow so deep that His light cannot reach it. You may feel uncomfortable as old wounds resurface, but remember, this is deliverance in progress. Every truth he reveals is a doorway to freedom. Every hidden chain uncovered is one step closer to release. You are being purified, refined, and equipped for what comes next. And once you see, you cannot unsee. That is your power. That is why the enemy tried so hard to keep you distracted. Because once your eyes open, deception loses its control forever. You begin to discern motives instantly, sense danger early, and recognize truth without hesitation. You become spiritually unshakable. Hold steady. Chosen one. The light may be fierce, but it is friendly. It is burning away illusions, revealing purpose, and restoring your authority. You are walking out of confusion and into clarity, out of deception and into discernment. What others stumble through, you will see clearly. What others fear, you will discern and disarm. This is what happens when heaven exposes the shadows. It reminds darkness who you really are. You are the one who carries the light. And where you walk, shadows have no choice but to flee. The moment you said yes to the light, chosen one, heaven began to move. What felt like chaos around you is actually divine reordering. The rescue plan has already started quietly, steadily, like dawn unfolding over a battlefield still covered in fog. The angels are not coming, they are already here. Assignments have been released. Doors are unlocking in silence, and chains are being loosened while you sleep. But understand, this divine rescue is not a magic trick. It is a partnership. God's power and your obedience must move together like wind and wings. He provides the breath, but you must choose to rise. He offers the key, but you must choose to turn it. This is why faith without movement remains only potential. The rescue plan works through your response. Imagine a sailor caught in a raging sea. He prays for rescue, and heaven answers by sending a lighthouse. But the light only helps him if he sails toward it. That is your moment now. The light has appeared, but you must steer. You cannot remain where you are and still expect to arrive where you're meant to be. Sometimes, rescue begins not with thunder, but with a whisper that says, "Go." It may lead you to change habits, forgive someone, walk away from what is safe, or finally obey that calling you've postponed. It may require you to rebuild your altar of prayer or to make peace with a broken part of your past. Every act of obedience is a step toward deliverance. Heaven's rescue is not only external, it begins within. God rescues your mindset before He rescues your circumstance. He heals your perspective before He heals your surroundings. That's why some things around you haven't changed yet, because He's changing the way you see them first. The voice of God thundered in the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 13. Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. Even when the waters seem too deep, even when Pharaoh's army of anxiety and fear seems to close in, the command is the same: stand firm. The deliverance is already on its way. What you see as a Red Sea before you is about to split into a path of escape. What you thought would drown, you will instead display God's power. You are not forgotten. Every tear, every prayer whispered in exhaustion, every moment you felt invisible, they have all been counted. Your rescue is heaven's priority. And sometimes, God uses people, communities, and messages like this one to reach you, to remind you that your life still carries meaning beyond the storm. Beloved, Let this message be a bridge between your despair and your destiny. If it touches you, if it stirs something deep within, it's because it's part of your rescue. And like all divine works, it grows through unity. When you like, share, and subscribe, you are not just engaging, you are extending the lighthouse further into the dark. You are helping the next lost soul find their way home. And if you feel led, you can donate not as a transaction, but as participation in the work of heaven. Think of it as planting a seed into fertile soil. A seed doesn't just bless the ground it falls into, it grows to shelter others. Your giving, your support, your sharing, they are all parts of the same rescue chain that pulled you from the waters. You might think, what can my small act do? But remember, the widow's 2 coins still echo through eternity because they were given with faith. Every click, every share, every seed of generosity expands the reach of light in a world drowning in noise. This mission survives not through force, but through the willing hearts of those who believe that light still matters. So yes, engage but not out of obligation. Do it as an act of gratitude, as a silent thank you to the one who never stopped reaching for you. Your support becomes a prayer in motion, a ripple of rescue that touches unseen hearts across nations. As you do, may heaven return to you what no currency can buy: peace, clarity, divine strength, and restoration. The God who multiplies bread and fish still multiplies acts of faith. What you sow in belief will return as miracles in your own life. The rescue plan is unfolding even now. You are not waiting for it, it's waiting for you to align. The same God who divided the sea is dividing your confusion. The same power that guided Israel through the wilderness is guiding your steps through uncertainty. You are walking out of danger and into divine order. And soon, when you look back, you'll realize every storm, every tear, every wilderness moment was part of the map that led you to this very message. The rescue is real. The light is near. Your response is the key. Chosen one, you are standing at a divine intersection, the crossroads of delay. Heaven is speaking once again. And this time, the message is clear. You cannot linger here any longer. Every second of hesitation is a thief. Every moment of delay is a whisper from darkness saying, you have time, but the Spirit is warning. Not this time. The crossroads is a dangerous place because it feels safe. It gives the illusion of choice without demand. You stand between obedience and comfort, between what God said and what feels convenient. And while you stand still, time keeps moving. The enemy loves the indecision of the chosen because every pause delays divine progress. You have prayed for breakthrough, but heaven is waiting for movement. God cannot bless what you refuse to build. He cannot multiply what you never sow. The angels assigned to your destiny are standing ready, but they move when you do. That's why the delay feels heavy, because destiny is pressing forward. But your feet are still planted in hesitation. Many before you reached this same crossroad. Some turned back to comfort. Others froze in fear. But a few, the chosen few, stepped into obedience despite not knowing what awaited them. That is what faith truly is, movement without full explanation. You may not know the how, but you know the who. Right now, God is whispering. You have delayed long enough. You've said, maybe next month, maybe when I'm ready, maybe after I fix myself. But the truth is, readiness is not the requirement, obedience is. You will not be fully ready until you take the first step. Because readiness is built in motion. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah. Chapter 29, verse 11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Those plans have not expired, but they require your participation. Hope and future are not random, they are responses to obedience. You must step into the plan, not just believe it exists. The delay has been eating away at your momentum, and the enemy has been celebrating every pause disguised as preparation. But heaven is saying, move now. There are blessings that can only be unlocked through motion. There are miracles waiting for your next yes. Even the walls of Jericho did not fall when Joshua planned, they fell when he walked. The sea did not part when Moses prayed, it parted when he stretched his staff. Faith that stays still is faith that fades. Beloved, you have carried prophetic words for seasons. You have journals filled with dreams, visions, promises. But heaven cannot deliver what you refuse to open. You have stood at this crossroad long enough, waiting for a sign. When the sign is this message itself, God is saying, go. And yet, hesitation whispers softly, what if I fail? But what if you don't? What if this time? Obedience births what fear has been blocking. What if the miracle is waiting on the other side of movement? Fear never leaves, it simply loses authority when you walk through it. Do not fear stepping into the unknown. The unknown is simply the place where miracles live. You will never see the next level of God's faithfulness if you keep standing at the last instruction, waiting for confirmation that will never come until you move. This is your moment to shake off procrastination like dust. The enemy has already wasted enough of your time. Heaven does not send reminders without reason. When God repeats himself, it's not because he wasn't clear, it's because the moment has arrived. Right now, your spirit knows this truth. You can feel it stirring deep within, the divine urgency, the holy push. Don't resist it. Let it propel you forward. You've been asking for clarity, and God is answering with a command, step out. And when you do, heaven will meet you mid-step. The winds will shift. The closed doors will open. The confusion will fade. You will realize that obedience was always the missing key. The moment you move, grace multiplies. The moment you trust, peace floods in. The moment you say yes, chains fall. The crossroads of delay is not where you die, it's where you decide. The world may never understand your leap, but heaven celebrates it. Angels record every act of obedience, every step of faith, every yes whispered through trembling lips. That's how destinies are born, through obedience that moves even when afraid. You are not late, you are being realigned. The delay ends tonight. No more waiting for perfect conditions. No more hiding behind fear of failure. No more treating divine instruction like suggestion. It's time to step forward. Not tomorrow. Not soon now. And as a prophetic act of surrender, to mark this moment of movement, type 444 inches, the comments below, not as a number, but as a declaration, I am moving forward. That number will be your altar of decision, a signal that heaven can record. Every time you see it again, let it remind you that you once stood still and then decided to rise. The crossroads of delay has been broken. You are walking forward now. guided by unseen hands, protected by divine timing, and empowered by obedience that no force of darkness can resist. The moment you move, rescue accelerates. The moment you act, destiny unfolds. The wait is over. When heaven fights for you, chosen one. The battle doesn't always look the way you imagined. It isn't all thunder and flashing swords. It is often quiet, invisible, yet utterly unstoppable. The atmosphere shifts. Unseen forces move, and what once oppressed you begins to lose its power. You are living in a war zone that most eyes cannot perceive, but your spirit has always known. You felt it in sudden heaviness, in nights where peace seemed stolen, in mornings that began with unexplained resistance. Those moments were not coincidence. They were signs of a war being fought over your destiny. You must understand God is not indifferent to your struggle. He does not stand far off while you are surrounded. When He fights for you, He enters the battle Himself. His presence becomes your shield, His voice your weapon, His promises your armor. The forces that rise against you may be fierce, but they are never greater than the one who stands with you. There have been times you wondered why the attacks intensified just when you began to make progress. That is because your obedience disturbs the plans of darkness. Every prayer you whispered, every time you refused to give up, every choice to stay pure when temptation called, each act of faith sent shockwaves through the spiritual realm. You don't see the full scale of it, but heaven does. Angels record every victory, even the small ones, because they carry eternal weight. When heaven fights for you, the battle is strategic. God doesn't waste movement. He allows some storms to test your strength and others to reveal His sovereignty. Sometimes He lets the enemy believe he's winning just long enough to show the world how easily he can turn defeat into glory. Remember, Jesus didn't avoid the cross, He conquered through it. In the same way, the situation that looks like your downfall may be the very battlefield where your breakthrough is born. The world teaches you to fight by sight, to push, argue, control, but heaven teaches you to fight by surrender. True victory begins not in striving, but in stillness. When you release control, you make room for God's power to flow unhindered. You may think surrender is weakness, but in the kingdom, it is warfare. When you let go, heaven takes hold. As Jesus Himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 19, verse 26, "With man this is impossible, but with God all things are possible." Those words are not poetic, they are military. They are the war cry of heaven's army. When you've reached the limit of your ability, God begins to move beyond it. When your strength fails, His strength ignites. When you've done all you can, He does what you cannot. That's the rhythm of divine warfare. Man's end becomes God's beginning. You have been fighting battles that were never yours to carry. You've tried to fix what only God can heal, tried to win arguments that required silence, tried to carry weights meant for His shoulders. But heaven is whispering, "Stand still and watch." You are about to witness victories you didn't have to fight for, breakthroughs that appear without explanation. When God defends His chosen, no enemy can withstand the assault of divine justice. The enemy may come one way, but he will flee seven. The traps laid for you will become testimonies. The weapons formed against you will backfire into the hands that forged them. You will see it with your own eyes, how heaven rearranges the battlefield in your favor. And, though the fight is invisible, the evidence will be undeniable. Peace will return where there was confusion. Strength will rise where there was exhaustion. Open doors will appear where walls once stood. You will walk into rooms that once rejected you and find favor waiting like a royal welcome. That's how heaven fights, not by force alone, but by reordering reality around you. So fear not. Chosen one, you are surrounded, but not by darkness, by light. You are outnumbered, but not overpowered. Even now, angelic forces stand at your sides, waiting for your faith to agree with heaven's command. The same God who fought for Israel, who silenced lions for Daniel, who split seas for Moses, is fighting for you now. You will not fall in this battle. You will not be forgotten in this war. The hand of God is still raised, the victory already written. When heaven fights for you, the outcome is certain. The only question is how soon you'll see it unfold. Hold your ground. Keep praying. Keep believing. The battle is already turning in your favor. The break in the darkness has come quietly, like the first crack of dawn after a night that seemed endless. You may not have noticed it yet, chosen one, but the atmosphere around you has shifted. The heaviness that once pressed down on your chest is beginning to lift. The confusion that tangled your thoughts is unraveling thread by thread. Light is finding its way into corners you had long accepted as shadows. What was hidden is being revealed, not to shame you, but to free you. For too long, the enemy tried to convince you that you were trapped, that nothing would change, that your prayers were lost in the wind. But heaven has been listening the entire time. The moment you whispered your first cry for help, a process began. What looked like silence was actually construction. God was rearranging your inner world before transforming your outer one. This is what deliverance often feels like, not an explosion, but an awakening. The darkness doesn't always flee with noise. Sometimes it leaves quietly when it realizes it no longer has permission to stay. The light has come because your spirit finally said, "Enough." And when you said it, heaven agreed. Beloved, this light is not just illumination, it is revelation. It shows you the root of your suffering. It points out the doorways through which fear entered, the lies you unknowingly believed, the wounds that turned into walls. God is not merely healing the surface, He is restoring the foundation. What broke you will no longer define you. You may feel strange emotions rising now: sorrow, regret, anger, even relief. That is normal. When the light enters, it stirs what was buried. Memories resurface, not to haunt you, but to be healed. The things you refused to confront are now being placed in the hands of mercy. And mercy, unlike the world, never condemns. It cleanses, rebuilds, renews. The darkness that once surrounded you has been losing strength each time you chose to hope. Every prayer, every tear, every act of forgiveness was a strike of light against the walls of despair. The process was slow because it was sacred. God was ensuring that what He restores will never be stolen again. Heaven speaks clearly through the words in Deuteronomy, chapter 31, verse 6, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them. For the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you." Those words are not ancient, they are alive. They echo now for you. The Lord your God is walking beside you through this very transformation. You are not crawling out of the darkness alone. Divine hands are guiding you through it. You are emerging not just healed, but wiser. Not just freed, but fortified. The light you feel now is not fragile, it's fierce. It will expose anything that tries to pull you backward. It will confront every lie with truth and every fear with peace. You no longer have to wonder if God is near. His presence surrounds you like morning mist, gentle, steady, unavoidable. As light breaks through, you will start to see things differently. The people who once drained your energy will no longer hold power over you. The habits that once enslaved you will lose their pull. The same situations that once triggered anxiety will now reveal peace. That is the evidence of freedom. You begin to see life through heaven's clarity, not human confusion. Do not rush this stage. The breaking of darkness is delicate work. It requires patience, prayer, and awareness. The Spirit will show you what to release and what to rebuild. Old desires will fade, and new ones will rise. You will hunger for truth more than comfort, for purpose more than distraction, for intimacy with God more than applause from people. Every sunrise begins with a faint line of gold, small, almost unnoticeable, yet that line announces the end of night. So it is with you. The smallest spark of faith has become a signal flare to heaven, and now the full morning is on its way. The light that began within you will soon shine around you. Your mind will find rest. Your heart will breathe again. Your spirit will remember joy. Do not fear the process of exposure. It is the path to purity. The light has not come to destroy. It has come to rebuild, to cleanse, to prepare. You are stepping into a new clarity, one that will make confusion impossible and deception powerless. The darkness is breaking, and you, chosen one, are rising with the dawn. Your cry has been heard. Chosen one, every whisper that left your lips in the dark, every silent prayer that trembled in your chest, every why that no one else could understand, heaven heard them all. You thought your pain was private, but it reached the throne room. God collected your tears when no one saw. And now, in the unseen realm, answers are being released. Sometimes it takes time for heaven's reply to manifest on earth, but delay does not mean denial. While you waited, God was moving. While you wept, angels were dispatched. The silence was not absence, it was strategy. God was preparing a response that would not only heal you, but also align everything around you for greater purpose. You've walked through seasons where your prayers seemed to hit walls. You've asked, "Is God ignoring me?" But no, he was constructing something too weighty to rush. The deeper the foundation, the longer the preparation. You were not waiting on God. He was waiting on the right moment to deliver what could not be stolen. You may not realize it, but even your broken words were sacred offerings. Heaven understood every sigh, every wordless ache. Your prayer didn't have to be perfect, it just had to be real. God listens to authenticity, not eloquence. He answers sincerity, not performance. As the psalmist David once wrote in the book of Psalms, chapter 34, verse 17, "The righteous cry out, and the Lord hears them. He delivers them from all their troubles." That is your promise today. The cry that left your mouth is already in God's memory. The sound of your suffering was not ignored, it was translated into divine action. The rescue may not come as you expected, but it will come exactly when you need it. Sometimes God doesn't answer by changing circumstances. He changes you first. He strengthens the heart that must carry the miracle. He refines the vessel before pouring the blessing. You prayed for open doors, but He strengthened your legs to walk through them. You prayed for peace, but He taught your heart to rest in storms. You prayed for love, and He began healing the places that could not yet receive it. When heaven hears your cry, it does not merely comfort, it responds with construction. Angels move into alignment. Opportunities shift, and people you haven't met yet begin walking toward your story. God is weaving invisible threads of divine timing through every delay. And soon, what seemed disconnected will form a picture of mercy, so perfect you'll know it could only be divine. But for now, keep crying out, keep praying, keep pressing, not because God is deaf, but because every cry pulls you closer to Him. Prayer is not just communication, it is transformation. Each time you speak, your soul aligns more with His rhythm. Every whisper is a step deeper into intimacy. Beloved, don't underestimate how powerful your voice is. The enemy fears your prayers because they shake what he builds. He will try to convince you that your cries are pointless, that your words vanish into thin air. But every time you open your mouth in faith, heaven leans in to listen. You move realms with a single sentence of surrender. You are not forgotten. The very fact that you're still here, still listening, still breathing despite everything that tried to silence you, is proof that heaven intervened when you didn't even know it. The enemy aimed for destruction, but God intercepted with deliverance. You may have lost battles, but the war was never yours to lose. Soon, you will see what your tears purchased. The peace that passes understanding, the restoration that feels impossible, the connections that only divine orchestration could arrange. These are not random blessings, they are the answers to prayers you thought were unanswered. Your tears watered seeds of future victory. Your pain became the soil where purpose now grows. Every sleepless night was a testimony being written in the dark. And now, light is beginning to reveal the harvest. You are about to step into seasons where joy will echo louder than your past cries. But before that unfolds, I want you to declare one short, powerful act of faith. Comment the words, "God hears me." Say it as both reminder and prophecy. Write it not because I asked, but because heaven deserves your agreement. When you type those words, you are doing more than commenting. You are aligning your spirit with truth. You are declaring that silence was never rejection. You are affirming that the Creator of the universe bends His ear toward your heart. Every "God hears me" typed becomes a spark of faith. It tells the darkness, you failed. I am still speaking. I am still believing. And heaven responds to that sound because faith is the only language it understands. So, breathe again. The silence is over. Your cry has been heard. Your name remembered. And your answer is already in motion. The wait has not been wasted. The pain has not been pointless. The story isn't finished, it's just turning toward redemption. The covenant of protection is not written on paper or sealed with wax. It is written in light, sealed in blood, and guarded by heaven itself. Chosen one, you are under that covenant now. When you said yes to the divine calling, heaven marked you. It wasn't just a moment of emotion, it was a legal shift in the spiritual realm. Your name was etched on the scroll of preservation. Your life folded into the hands of the Almighty. But hear this truth, divine protection doesn't mean absence of battles, it means victory within them. The storms may still come, the winds may still roar, but they can no longer destroy what God has claimed as His own. You are not exposed, you are enclosed. You walk through danger not as prey, but as promise. You have survived attacks that were never meant to be survivable. You have walked through things that should have ended you. Yet here you are breathing, rising, listening, still chosen. That's the covenant at work. Every time the enemy tried to touch what belonged to God, the invisible barrier held. Every time the fire rose higher, grace became your shield. When you belong to God, the very laws of nature bend in your favor. The sea splits for you, the furnace cools for you, the lion closes its mouth before it devours. Divine protection is not superstition, it's reality. You've been preserved not because you were lucky, but because you were loved. As was spoken in the sacred texts of old, in the book of Psalms, chapter 91, verse 11, "For He will command His angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." That verse is not poetry, it's protocol. It means there are angels assigned to your journey, beings of light who have been walking beside you since the day you were born. You've been protected from accidents you never knew were coming, from words that could have broken you, from battles you didn't even realize were being fought on your behalf. And yet, the covenant of protection is not passive. It grows stronger when you align with it. It requires trust, obedience, and partnership. When you stay in the light, the covering strengthens. When you wander into disobedience, the enemy seeks to find cracks. That's why faith is not just belief, it's shelter. Every prayer builds a wall. Every act of gratitude repairs a breach. Every moment of surrender widens the distance between you and destruction. You might ask, if I'm so protected, why did I still get hurt? Because some wounds are not weapons, they are windows. They remind you of your dependence on the one who heals. They become proof that even when pain touched you, it couldn't consume you. What tried to break you only revealed how unbreakable your spirit truly is under divine covering. Protection doesn't mean no fire. It means you will walk through it and not burn. It doesn't mean no storms. It means you will float where others sink. It doesn't mean you won't be attacked. It means every attack becomes ammunition for your testimony. And in that truth, I want to speak to your heart, not as a command, but as an invitation. If this message has reminded you of that covenant, if it has reignited something deep in your faith, then help it travel further. Like this message, not for numbers, but as a signal that you stand under the same promise. Share it not for visibility, but to stretch the shield of protection over another soul still walking through fire. And yes, subscribe not to a platform, but to a flow of divine reminders that keep your spirit anchored when the world grows loud again. Each connection you make here keeps the light alive longer in the digital wilderness. If your heart is moved and you feel led, you can also donate. But hear this, donation is not obligation, it is devotion. Think of it as pouring oil into the lamps of others who still wander in darkness. You're not giving to a voice, you're giving through it, fueling the message that once reached you in your night. Every seed of generosity becomes a ripple of protection around you and those you love, like a shepherd marking his sheep. God recognizes those who keep the flame burning. When you invest in light, you are reinforcing your own shield. You are saying, Lord, I want this message of hope and covering to reach more hearts, to rescue more souls. This is not manipulation, it's multiplication. It's how heaven extends its reach through the willing. Every click, every share, every small act of support becomes a thread in the divine net that pulls others out of despair. Remember, the covenant of protection is not just about surviving, it's about thriving while others wonder how you still shine. And you will. You will shine in safety, in faith, in peace. Because the Lord has written your name in the walls of His keeping. You are untouchable where it matters most. Guarded, covered, seen, and carried. That is your covenant, and it stands forever. The moment of decision has arrived. Chosen one. It doesn't come with lightning or loud announcements. It comes as a quiet stirring in your spirit. A sudden clarity that the waiting season is over. You can feel it. Something in the atmosphere around you has changed. Heaven is holding its breath, watching to see which way you will turn. Mercy and justice stand side by side, waiting for your response. You have walked through fire, endured storms, and survived nights that felt endless. Every trial has been leading to this threshold. You are not simply being tested, you are being trusted. God does not bring His chosen to crossroads without purpose. He gives you choice because He honors your freedom. But He also gives you conviction because He loves your soul. This moment is sacred. Every decision you've delayed, every obedience you've postponed, every forgiveness you've avoided, heaven has gathered them here. The Spirit whispers, now is the time. Not next week. Not next season now. The balance of your destiny rests on how you respond to this inner voice. You've been given glimpses of what obedience could unlock: peace, restoration, clarity, strength. You've also seen what disobedience costs: confusion, heaviness, distance from divine alignment. The weight of the decision is not punishment, it's privilege. Only those marked by heaven face such defining moments. Inside your heart, two voices compete. One says, stay safe where you are. The other says, step into what you cannot yet see. The first voice comes from fear, the second from faith. The fear voice sounds logical, even comforting. It tells you that it's okay to wait until things make sense. But faith rarely makes sense, it makes history. Do not mistake comfort for peace. Comfort is temporary escape. Peace is divine alignment. God is not calling you to something easy, He's calling you to something eternal. The narrow road is not glamorous, but it is glorious. It strips you of pretense and fills you with presence. Remember the Israelites at the edge of the promised land. They saw the fruit of their destiny, but feared the giants guarding it. Many chose safety over promise, and their hesitation cost them 40 years of wandering. Fear always demands delay, but faith moves forward even when trembling. It was proclaimed in the second letter to Timothy, chapter 4, verse 7, I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. That verse is not about perfection, it's about completion. It's a declaration from one who made hard choices and never turned back. The fight wasn't easy. The race wasn't smooth. But faith endured. That's the call upon you now, to finish, not to flee. This decision may not seem grand from the outside. It might be as simple as letting go of something that no longer aligns with your purpose, forgiving someone you've carried in bitterness, or finally saying yes to what God placed in your heart long ago. But heaven measures obedience not by its size, but by its sincerity. The smallest yes can move mountains unseen. Do not underestimate the ripple of one act of courage. When Ruth chose to follow Naomi, she had no idea it would lead her into the lineage of kings. When Peter stepped out of the boat, he didn't know he would walk on water. When Mary said, "Be it unto me," she carried the Savior of the world. Every great move of God begins with a personal decision to trust Him fully. You may fear losing what's familiar. That's natural. But what you release in obedience will always return multiplied. The promise of God never leaves you emptier. It leaves you freer. Sometimes you must drop the counterfeit to receive the crown. And yet, God is gentle. He doesn't demand with force, He invites with love. The Spirit doesn't push, it pulls. You'll feel the drawing deep inside. That soft conviction saying, "It's time to choose me again." That feeling is not guilt, it's grace knocking at your heart's door. Don't harden your heart this time. Don't drown out the whisper with distractions. The window of mercy is open, but not forever. God's love is endless. But seasons shift. When He calls, it's because something in heaven's calendar has turned. There are opportunities that only open when obedience aligns with timing. Miss them, and you delay the next chapter of your destiny. This is your turning point. All the lessons, all the pain, all the revelations of the past seasons were preparation for this. You have outgrown your old patterns. The version of you that tolerated compromise cannot enter the next stage. Transformation requires decision. Stand still for a moment. Breathe. Feel the gravity of this hour. Heaven is not angry, it is expectant. Angels lean closer, watching for your choice. The moment you say yes, the atmosphere around you will shift. The unseen chains will loosen. The confusion will lift. And divine order will begin to move through your life like wind through trees. You will look back on this night and say, "That was the moment everything changed." Not because the world suddenly became easier, but because your heart became stronger. You will discover that obedience is the birthplace of freedom. So choose life. Choose truth. Choose the voice that leads you higher, even if it leads you away from comfort. God does not call you out to abandon you, He calls you out to crown you. And when you step into that decision with trembling faith, the heavens will rejoice. Because another chosen one has chosen well. The air feels different now, doesn't it? Chosen one, something invisible yet undeniable, is stirring. The shift in the atmosphere has begun. You can sense it in the quiet, like the moment just before dawn, when the earth holds its breath, waiting for the first light. What was heavy is lifting. What was blocked is opening. You've stepped into a new dimension of grace, one that few ever recognize while it's happening. But heaven does, and heaven celebrates. When divine winds blow, they rarely announce themselves. You may not see the change yet, but your spirit feels it before your eyes do. The things that once drained you now seem distant. The patterns that used to repeat are losing their hold. This is not coincidence, it's transition. The atmosphere around your life is shifting because obedience changes everything. God is rearranging your environment to match your elevation. What once surrounded you cannot stay because it does not serve your new season. That's why some people grew silent. Why certain doors closed. Why some plans collapsed right after you decided to move in faith. The collapse wasn't failure, it was clearing. Heaven was removing what could not carry the weight of your destiny. Don't mourn what left you. The wind that took it away was the same wind that carried you forward. The Spirit moves like air unseen, unstoppable, essential. You can't predict it, but you can feel it. It enters through surrender and fills every empty space with divine presence. That's why you've been sensing both loss and freedom at once. It's the tension of transformation. Beloved, the old atmosphere was thick with delay, doubt, and distraction. But now, the pressure has broken. Light is moving freely again. Prayers that once felt trapped in the ceiling are now ascending unhindered. You are breathing in peace instead of panic. It's not your imagination. Heaven's frequency around you has shifted. It was declared in the book of Isaiah, chapter 43, verse 19. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. That word describes exactly what's happening within you. God is doing a new thing quietly, powerfully, undeniably. The wilderness of confusion is turning into a path. The dry ground of delay is becoming fertile again. The streams you thought had dried up are beginning to flow. You are walking into fresh provision, new revelation, and deeper peace. The shift in the atmosphere is not just around you, it's also inside you. The heaviness that once felt like a blanket over your heart is being lifted. You're beginning to dream again, to hope again, to believe that God's promises were not forgotten. That's the sign of renewal. The heart begins to move before the circumstances do. When heaven shifts, hell trembles. The enemy loses control when you stop agreeing with his lies. That's why confusion has been trying to return. It knows its time is short. But this time, you are not falling back into fear. You have tasted clarity, and you cannot unsee it. You are learning that peace is not the absence of problems, it's the presence of purpose. The Spirit is now guiding you into a rhythm of rest and revelation. Ideas will come that once felt impossible. Strength will rise in places you thought were permanently weak. You'll notice your words carrying greater authority, your prayers striking deeper, your discernment sharpening. That's what happens when the atmosphere shifts. Heaven's breath begins to flow through your lungs. Do not be surprised when blessings begin to appear suddenly, or when answers come in unexpected forms. The new wind moves differently. It will bring people who carry your next level, opportunities that align with your growth, and confirmations that strengthen your faith. Nothing is random anymore. Everything is rearranged by divine design. Yet remember, every shift requires stewardship. Protect this new peace. Guard the purity of your thoughts. Speak words that match your elevation. Don't let old habits pull you back into old weather. When you walk in a higher atmosphere, old air cannot sustain you. The shift is not temporary, it's transformative. The things God is awakening now will outlast every storm that comes next. You are not returning to what was, you are advancing into what's written. And from this moment forward, your life will begin to bear the fragrance of change, the undeniable scent of divine renewal. So now, as a prophetic act to acknowledge that you have felt this divine shift, I invite you to comment the number 222 below. Let it be your sign of agreement that you perceive the new thing God is doing. That number symbolizes divine alignment, heavenly order, and confirmation that your path is being made straight. When you type it, do it with intention. Let it be more than numbers on a screen. Let it be a declaration from your spirit. I see the new beginning. Each 222 will stand as a light in the digital wilderness, a reminder that transformation is real and happening even now. Breathe deeply. Chosen one. The air is different because you are different. The atmosphere has shifted, and this time, you're moving with it. Every great awakening stirs a counterattack. The moment light breaks through, the darkness begins to claw for its last piece of territory. And now, chosen one, you have entered that stage, the enemy's last stand. It will not come with fire from the sky or visible armies, but with subtle whispers, old temptations, and the sudden resurfacing of wounds you thought were long gone. Don't be afraid of this. The presence of resistance only means one thing: you've become a threat. The adversary rarely wastes energy on those who pose no danger. He aims at you precisely because your obedience has broken his influence. The walls he built around your life are collapsing, and he's desperate to reclaim what he's lost. He cannot touch your spirit, so he tries to reach your emotions. He cannot curse your calling, so he tries to distract your focus. This final struggle will not look like previous battles. It will be more psychological than physical, more spiritual than visible. You may find old fears revisiting, old insecurities whispering again, or familiar patterns tempting you to return to what once enslaved you. But remember, temptation after transformation is a sign of transition. When Jesus stepped into his public purpose, the wilderness tried one last time to claim him. You are walking through that same final test, the battle that proves you've already won. Do not misread the enemy's persistence as your weakness. He fights hardest when he's already defeated. The closer you get to breakthrough, the more he tries to blur your vision. His last tactic is confusion. If he can't destroy you, he'll try to distract you. If he can't silence you, he'll try to exhaust you. But the spirit within you has matured. You now recognize the counterfeit by its scent. You know the difference between spiritual conviction and demonic condemnation. This is the season where your discernment becomes your weapon. You will hear lies that sound almost true, half light wrapped around full deception. The enemy speaks in familiarity because he wants to sound like your own thoughts. But the moment you test those words against truth, they crumble. The moment you resist, he flees. The war is already written. You're just walking out the final chapter. It is written in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 10, verse 19. I have given you authority to trample on snakes and scorpions, and to overcome all the power of the enemy. Nothing will harm you. That authority is your inheritance. You don't need to earn it. You already carry it. The same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead lives in you, and every dark power recognizes it. The enemy's strategy is to make you forget what you carry, to make you feel ordinary when you are extraordinary. But once you remember who you are, the battle turns instantly. This final stand will reveal how much you've grown. Once, the enemy could move you easily with fear or guilt. Now, he finds you immovable. You've learned to pray through panic, to praise through pain, to rest while surrounded by noise. That calm you now feel isn't apathy, it's authority. The warfare hasn't stopped. You've simply risen above its frequency. The devil does not know how to fight someone who refuses to react. His weapons depend on your attention, but your peace blinds him. So, when temptation comes, stay still. When fear knocks, stay silent. When old wounds whisper, remind them, I am healed. You do not have to prove your power. You only need to stand in it. Sometimes, the final test appears as loneliness. After all the noise, suddenly, silence returns. That silence is not punishment, it's promotion. God removes extra voices so you can hear him more clearly. Do not confuse isolation with abandonment. The shepherd always walks closest when the path narrows. Beloved, take note of your strength. What once shook you now barely stirs you. What once made you doubt now drives you to prayer. This is evidence that the fire didn't burn you, it refined you. The scars you carry are not symbols of defeat, but badges of authority. Every battle you've survived has added another layer of spiritual armor. You will notice, too, that the enemy's attacks have become repetitive. That's because he's out of creativity. His tactics are ancient, and your awareness has made them ineffective. He will try, once more, to replay old memories, revive old wounds, and whisper, "See, nothing has changed." But everything has changed, you have. You are no longer the same soul that entered the storm. You have knowledge, resilience, divine perspective. The darkness cannot unteach what heaven has already shown you. And soon, this resistance will end. The enemy's voice will fade. His schemes will crumble. And peace will settle like morning dew after a long night. The battlefield will grow quiet. Not because the war disappeared, but because you've risen to a realm where it can no longer reach you. So, hold your position. Do not fear the shaking. It's only the sound of chains breaking their final links. The pressure you feel is the weight of victory forming around you. You are standing in the last moments before a new era of authority and rest. This is the enemy's last stand, and you are watching his final retreat. Rise now, warrior of light. You've endured the shadows, faced the storms, and stood through battles that others would have fled from. You've been broken, bruised, and bent, but not destroyed. Heaven has watched you endure silently. And now, the command has gone forth. It's time to rise. This rising is not physical, it's spiritual. It's the awakening of the authority that has always lived inside you. For too long, you've mistaken humility for silence and meekness for invisibility. But true humility is not hiding your light, it's using it to serve. And now, your light must be revealed. You are not simply a survivor of the storm, you are its conqueror. The enemy meant to bury you, but didn't realize you were a seed. The pressure that surrounded you was never meant to destroy it, was meant to activate what was hidden beneath the surface. Every moment of crushing released more oil, and that oil has now become your anointing. The Spirit of God whispers, "You've cried long enough. You've doubted long enough. You've lived in the valley long enough. Now, rise." The weapons that once wounded you are now powerless. The same fire that once burned, you will now obey your command. You carry within you the same authority that silenced the storm, healed the sick, and shattered the gates of death. You are not a wanderer anymore, you are a warrior. And this warrior does not fight for victory, you fight from victory. The outcome is already written, and the darkness already knows it. That is why fear keeps trying to visit you. It knows its time is short. The enemy doesn't waste effort attacking those without power. He aims at those destined to shift nations, influence generations, and carry light into unreachable places. As the Apostle reminds us in his letter to the Ephesians, chapter 6, verse 10, finally, "Be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power." That power is not loud or theatrical, it's steady, radiant, unbreakable. It doesn't boast, it simply is. It flows through you when you speak truth in love, when you forgive instead of retaliate, when you stand firm instead of flee. Power isn't found in shouting at darkness, it's found in shining without fear. The armor you wear is invisible but indestructible. It's woven from surrender, forged in prayer, and polished by perseverance. Your shield is faith. Your sword is the word. Your helmet is hope. And every time you refuse to quit, heaven adds another layer of glory to your strength. The world may still look chaotic, but within you, the kingdom has settled. You have learned to walk through storms without losing your peace, to face opposition without losing your compassion. You've discovered that real strength doesn't come from resistance, it comes from rootedness. Trees that stand through tempests don't survive by fighting the wind, they survive by deepening their roots. And now, your roots go deep, deep into truth, deep into love, deep into divine wisdom. You are unshakable because you have learned where your source lies. Your confidence no longer comes from circumstances, but from covenant. The world didn't anoint you, so it can't unanoint you. The opinions of others may fluctuate, but the voice of God remains unchanged. You are mine. There will still be moments when the old version of you whispers, "You're not ready." But every battle you've endured has trained your hands for war. Every tear has sharpened your vision. Every wound has turned into a window through which God's light shines brighter. The things that once disqualified you have become the very proof of your qualification. When you rise, others will rise with you. Your courage will ignite dormant faith in others. Your endurance will awaken forgotten dreams. You will walk into rooms and shift the atmosphere simply by being present. You will speak, and confusion will dissolve. You will pray, and chains will fall quietly in unseen places. That's the weight of glory carried by the marked ones, the chosen warriors of light. And understand this, your rising is not rebellion, it's remembrance. You're remembering who you were before fear took your voice. You're remembering what heaven whispered over you before the world called you unworthy. You're remembering the promise sealed in your spirit before you ever took your first breath. You were never meant to hide among the broken, you were meant to rebuild them. So rise not arrogantly, but assuredly. Walk as one who knows their place in the plan of heaven. Lift your head high, not in pride, but in purpose. You've fought in secret, now you will shine in sight. You've bled in silence, now you will speak in power. The time of concealment has ended. The time of revealing has begun. Your words will pierce deception. Your presence will dismantle despair. And your testimony will remind the lost that light still lives. Rise, warrior of light. The world needs the sound of your steps. The heavens have written your name in fire, and the earth will soon echo it in faith. Your dawn is no longer coming, it has arrived. The great awakening is not coming, it's here. It's not a prophecy in waiting, it's a reality unfolding. You can feel it in the air. Like electricity before rain, souls are stirring. Eyes that were blind are beginning to see again. Hearts that once beat with fear are rediscovering courage. And you, chosen one, are part of this divine current. You are not a spectator in this revival, you are a spark in the wildfire of heaven's movement. When heaven begins to awaken the earth, it doesn't start in palaces or platforms, it starts in ordinary hearts that dare to say yes. You are one of those hearts. Your obedience has become a trumpet in the unseen realm, calling others to wake up from their spiritual sleep. The pain you endured, the silence you survived, the lessons you learned, they were never just for you. They were for every soul still wandering in the fog you've walked out of. Now, your life is becoming a living sermon. People will look at you and feel something shift. They won't be able to explain it, but they'll sense that your presence carries peace in a world that worships noise. You'll speak few words, yet they'll cut through confusion like lightning through clouds. That's the mark of the awakened. You no longer talk light, you become it. When the great awakening sweeps through hearts, it doesn't come gently. It comes like a tide breaking through a dam, flooding every dry place with mercy. You will start to see it everywhere, in the sudden humility of the proud, in the unexpected kindness of the hardened, in the quiet tears of those who said they no longer believed. The Spirit is moving in the cracks of the world, bringing color back to souls that thought they were beyond redemption. And through it all, you are called to be a torchbearer, not one who shouts at the dark, but one who shines steadily through it. You will carry this flame into digital spaces, families, cities, wherever light has grown thin. You won't have to force it. Light never struggles to shine. It just needs to be lifted. Scripture says in the Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 5, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." That is the anthem of the awakened. Darkness doesn't disappear because it's shouted at. It disappears because light refuses to retreat. Every post you write, every prayer you whisper, every act of compassion you choose, it all expands the territory of light. The smallest flame can ignite an entire forest when the wind of the Spirit blows through it. That's why these messages matter. They're not just words, they're embers. When you like, you add oxygen to the flame. When you share, you carry that ember into another soul's night. When you subscribe, you stay connected to the flow of messages that keep the fire alive in you. This is not about building a platform, it's about building an altar where weary hearts can find warmth again. And yes, if you feel moved, you can donate. But think of it not as giving money, think of it as fueling the lamp that lights countless paths. A single drop of oil kept the temple lamps burning through the darkest nights of history. Your seed, however small, keeps the light reaching further, illuminating lives you'll never meet, but heaven will. It's how we turn faith into flame together. Every time you give, share, or even comment, you're adding another brick to this altar of awakening. You're saying, let the light reach farther. You become part of something eternal, something that ripples across hearts long after your screen turns dark. You see, chosen one. Revival doesn't only happen in churches, it happens in choices. It happens when someone scrolling in despair stumbles upon a word that feels like home. It happens when one voice reminds another that God still speaks. This digital field has become a modern mission ground, and every engagement is a spark of ministry. So don't underestimate your part in this. What if your share becomes the bridge for someone else's breakthrough? What if your comment becomes the confirmation someone prayed for in silence? What if your act of support fuels the very message that saves a life at its breaking point? That's how heaven works, through ordinary obedience, producing extraordinary outcomes. The Great Awakening will not look like a single moment. It will look like thousands of small flames igniting in unity. Together, we become a constellation of hope against the backdrop of chaos. Together, We remind the world that light still wins. Your voice, your faith, your generosity, all of it matters. So as you finish this section, let it be more than reading. Let it be response. Let it be worship in action. Because revival is not waiting for someone else, it's waiting for you. The world is growing darker. Yes, but that only makes the light more visible. You are that light. And every time you engage, you prove that the flame still burns, that God is still speaking, still moving, still awakening his chosen ones to rise and rebuild the world again. The fire that once hurt you now lights your path. Chosen one, the time of endurance has turned into the time of revelation. What you walked through was never wasted. It was refining. The flames that threatened to consume you were actually forging something eternal. You are now crowned through the fire. The smoke of your suffering has cleared, and what remains is gold-tested, pure, unbreakable. There was a time when you thought God had abandoned you in the middle of your struggle. The pain felt endless, and the silence of heaven felt unbearable. But now, looking back, you can see the pattern in the pain. Every unanswered prayer became a hidden lesson. Every delay became a divine appointment. Every tear that fell was watering the soil of your future strength. You weren't being punished, you were being purified. It's strange, isn't it? How fire can both destroy and define. It consumes what's false, but refines what's true. That's what your trials have done. They burned away the illusions, the dependence on people, the craving for approval, the fear of being misunderstood. What's left is something unshakable, faith that does not rely on evidence, hope that does not require explanation, and love that cannot be stolen by loss. You no longer chase validation because you've met truth. You no longer fear rejection because you've tasted redemption. The things that once terrified you now teach you. The storms you once cursed now become your mentors. You have graduated from pain's classroom into purpose's calling. The Word of God declares in the first letter of Peter, chapter 1, verse 7, "These trials will show your faith is genuine. It is tested as fire tests gold." That is the story of your life. You are the living proof of that verse. Your faith didn't wither in the heat, it was welded in it. You've been through battles that others would have used as excuses to give up, but you turned them into testimonies. You've been through valleys that could have broken your mind, but they built your discernment instead. The crown you carry now isn't made of metal, it's made of memory. Each jewel is a moment you refuse to quit. A day you chose faith over fear. A night you worshipped when you could have wept. The crown isn't for decoration, it's for recognition. Heaven sees the warrior you've become. Every angel that guarded you through the flames now rejoices at your resilience. The fire also revealed something else: you were never alone. Even in your darkest night, there was always another standing beside you in the furnace. His presence may not have shouted, but it sustained. That is why, even when everything burned, you didn't burn out. You felt the heat, but you never lost the light. That light was his glory, reflected in your endurance. Now, you walk differently. There is a quiet authority in your steps. People may not know your full story, but they feel the weight of what you've carried. You don't speak from theory anymore, you speak from testimony. That's why your words pierce hearts. They carry the fragrance of fire and the sound of victory. And because of what you've endured, you now have empathy that cannot be faked. You see pain in others and recognize the battlefield behind their smiles. You no longer judge the wounded, you reach for them. You've learned that scars are not shame, they are signatures of survival. You are both healed and healer now, both survivor and servant. The crown on your spirit isn't given for perfection, it's given for persistence. It's heaven's way of saying, you stayed. You stayed when it would have been easier to run. You believed when faith felt foolish. You forgave when anger was justified. And for that, you have received what cannot be taken, a peace that passes understanding and a strength that doesn't depend on circumstances. This is what it means to be crowned through fire. It's to walk out of the furnace not smelling like smoke. To look back at the ashes and see beauty rising. It's to realize that what tried to end you actually announced you. The flames didn't consume you, they confirmed you. Now, your task is not to forget the fire, but to carry its light forward. There are others still standing in their own infernos, wondering if they'll survive. You are their living answer. When they see you standing, smiling, breathing, peace after chaos, they'll believe survival is possible. You'll become their signpost, pointing them toward hope. You are not fragile anymore. You are forged. Every word you speak now carries weight. Every step leaves impact. Every prayer moves mountains. You no longer walk as a wounded soul, you walk as a crowned one, tempered by divine heat. Look at yourself not with pride, but with wonder. What you've become was worth every flame. The fire didn't define your end, it revealed your essence. And now, as the smoke fades behind you, heaven declares over your life, it is finished, and it is fulfilled. The final call to action is not a shout from the sky, it is a whisper within your soul. You've walked through revelation and refinement, battle and breakthrough, and now you stand at the edge of destiny's door. This is not the end of your story, it is the beginning of your assignment, the purpose of your pain, the reason behind your waiting, the meaning in your storms, they all converge here. You are no longer the one crying for rescue, you are now the one sent to rescue others. There is a weight in the air, a sacred stillness, as if heaven itself pauses to witness this transition. The same God who called you from danger now commissions you into destiny. You are not simply being healed, you are being handed a mantle. Every revelation you've received has been a piece of armor. Every scar you carry is now a seal of authority. The earth is in need of those who have truly walked with God, not just talked about Him. It needs voices that carry authenticity, hearts that bleed compassion, and eyes that have seen both darkness and deliverance. That is why you were chosen. You are not random, you are strategic. Every chapter of your life, even the painful ones, has been preparation for this moment. You once asked, "Why me?" The answer is simple, because you endured what others could not. You faced battles meant to silence you, yet you sing. You walked through seasons designed to break you, yet you build. You lost things that should have destroyed your faith, yet your faith became stronger. God does not choose the comfortable, He chooses the capable, and capability is forged only through trial. The Spirit whispers now, "Go, not in haste, but in holiness, not to seek recognition, but to release restoration. Your mission is not to convince, it is to carry presence. When you walk into rooms, peace will follow. When you speak, hearts will realign. You will not need to prove your calling. The evidence will be your atmosphere. as was spoken in the sacred texts of old, in the book of Micah, chapter 6, verse 8, He has shown you, O mortal, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you: to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. That verse now becomes your compass. It is simple yet sovereign. To act justly, to stand for truth even when the world bends, to love mercy, to extend grace even when you weren't given any, to walk humbly, to carry power without pride, influence without ego, and purpose without performance. This is how heaven defines greatness. The final call is not about noise, it's about alignment. It's not about doing more, but about becoming more. The kingdom does not advance through chaos, it advances through consistency, through quiet hearts that keep shining when no one is watching. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to be available. This next chapter of your life will not look like the last. The weight you once carried will turn into wisdom. The loneliness that haunted you will turn into leadership. The wilderness that broke you will become the stage where you guide others out of their own. Every closed door was a redirection. Every delay was divine choreography. You have been trained in secret for influence in silence. Now heaven is sending you forth not to impress the world, but to impact it. The world doesn't need another voice of noise. It needs a vessel of truth. You are that vessel. You are that sound. Do not fear the magnitude of your calling. Greatness feels heavy at first, but it grows lighter as you walk in grace. Remember what you've learned. God does not call the perfect. He perfects the called. You've already proven faithful in the small. Now He will trust you with the great. The final call is not about reaching the end of the journey. It's about realizing that you've become the journey itself. Everywhere you go, heaven will go with you. Every conversation will carry light. Every step will leave footprints of peace on the soil of chaos. And when doubt returns, and it will remember this, the same voice that called you from danger still speaks through you. You are not walking away from the fire. You are walking with the flame. You are not merely surviving. You are spreading the survival to others. So go, chosen one. Go in grace. Go in courage. Go in truth. Carry the weight of light into dark places, not with fear, but with certainty. You were rescued to rescue, healed to heal, awakened to awaken. The final call has sounded, and heaven has written your name beside it. Step forward. The world is waiting for what God has placed within you. And now, chosen one, the journey comes full circle. You have walked through fire, flood, revelation, and redemption. You have seen heaven's mercy chase you down, lift you, cleanse you, and crown you. But this ending is not a closing door, it is an opening gate. You stand now on the threshold of new purpose, carrying within you the light of every lesson, every tear, every divine encounter. If these words have stirred your heart, if they've reminded you who you truly are, then let this not be where the connection ends. Like this message as an act of gratitude for what God has done, for what He's doing even now. When you share, you aren't just passing a story, you're extending a hand to someone who might still be lost in the dark you've already walked through. Comment your reflection, one line, one thought, one word of faith. Your testimony could be the spark that reignites another weary soul's belief. When you speak, heaven listens. When you write, heaven records. And yes, Subscribe, not merely to follow content, but to stay anchored in a stream of light, a place where reminders of faith, purpose, and divine power will continue to flow toward you. The world grows noisier by the day. Choose to remain connected to what strengthens your soul. Let your engagement be more than algorithm, it is alignment. Each click, each share, each word of encouragement helps this flame travel farther, lighting hearts across distances unseen. Remember, revival begins with one obedient heart. You are that heart. You are that light. And as long as you keep shining, darkness will never win.